list.
Okay. So it will store such that there is no redundancy. Okay. And you can create a list. Sorry, you can create a set by using the existing list by removing the redundancy. And firstly, you can create a new list. Both are possible. And at any given point of time, you can keep adding the new items to the list. Okay. But whereas in tuple, can you add? In tuple, you cannot add because it is immutable. Okay. Next, coming to the another data structure, that is dictionary. So you tell me, dictionary is a data structure based upon what technique? It's a data structure which is based upon the hashing technique. So hashing refers to key value pairs. That means every key will be having the associated value, and we assume that each key is unique within the dictionary. Okay. So values can be redundant, but keys should never be redundant. That means every key is unique. Suppose if you are interested in fetching a particular value, then you are supposed to know its key. What is its key? Otherwise, simply you may have to display all the existing elements of the dictionary. Okay. Okay, with that, okay, now I'll share my screen. We'll continue with the control flow statements. Can you see the screen? Students, can you see the screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, now we'll see, continue with the for loop. For loop actually we have used already. Now we'll see. So there are 4 statements which will provide as an opportunity to manipulate the loop structures. So these are break statement, continue statement, pass, and else statements. So already we have used a break statement. Okay, that is not at all new. We have used in C, C++ and all. So then continue the same thing. We have used already in C and C++. But pass is the one keyword which we have not used it so far. Okay, I'll tell you what is its use. And else is the statement which we have already used. Okay, so therefore there are 4 statements which will provide us an opportunity to manipulate the looping structures, that is break, continue, pass, and else statements. So now let us see what is break. Can you tell me what the break will do? Whenever the break executes, it will come out of the current loop. Say for example, you are in a nested loop, so it will just come out of the current loop, not from the outermost loop. So it will come out of the innermost loop, that is the current loop. The innermost loop is called as the current loop. Then continue. What happens when the continue executes?
Goes back to the loop.
So it will not continue the execution of the remainder part of the code in the block. Instead, it will go to the beginning and it will start the next iteration of the loop. Okay. So whenever you want to immediately start the next iteration of the loop, there you can put continue statement. Then pass. Pass actually does nothing. So that is the reason why most of the times we don't use. Even in Python, even though it is there, most of the times we don't do because it do nothing. Pass will do nothing. So you can use it when a statement is required syntactically. Yes, you can say syntactically yes, pass. Okay, it is pass. Okay, the meaning is pass. That means do nothing. Okay, continue. That is the meaning of pass statement. And else statement already we know. So along with if condition, we have used it numerous number of times. Okay, so that's about break, continue, pass, and else statement. So very importantly, you need to remember else. Sorry, the pass statement. Pass does nothing. Okay, that is the reason why most of the times we don't use pass, because it does nothing. Just syntactically to indicate that everything is fine, so do nothing. The meaning is do nothing. Now look at this piece of code using the for loop. For number in range 10, 20, if number division modulo 2 is equal to 0, that means you are checking if the remainder is equal to 0, then continue. So continue means then immediately go to the next iteration of the for loop. So initially 10 10 is the initial value, then it will go to the 11. Say because 10 percentage 2 is remainder is 0. Okay, the continue the if condition becomes true, so it will go to the next iteration, that is 11. So then in case of 11, if 11 percentage 2 is equal to 0, condition fails, it will come to the another for loop, that is for I in range 3 comma number, that is I is starting with what 3, okay, up to number means what is the value of number 11. So like that it will execute. Then if number percentage I, so what is number 11 percentage 3 is equal to 0, no, it is not equal to 0, so therefore print num is a prime number, so therefore print 11 is a prime number. So that means this piece of code is what it is doing, it will it is from 10 to 20, it is checking all the numbers whether it's a prime number or not. So based upon the condition, so the remainder is equal to 0 or not. So like that, so it is printing all the prime numbers. So now like that iteratively it will display all the prime numbers. So now what is our focus is not to learn how to compute the prime number, that we already know. So just to have an idea about how to use continuous statement. So in this piece of code, why we are using continuous statement here? Why we are using continuous statement? Whenever the number is not a prime number, it should go to the it should go to the next iteration. Whenever the if condition fails, you want to go to the next iteration instead of continuing with the execution. So for that purpose, we have used a continuous statement. And here in the second for loop, why we have used the break statement? Whenever the condition fails, you want to completely come out of this loop. So that's why we are using the break statement here. I'll show you another example. So now look at a simple program to print sum of even numbers up to 4 million. Okay, up to 4 million, just keep in your mind. Okay, 4 million means 40 lakhs. Okay, so here, what is this program is all about? So total is equal to 0. So F1, F2, F1 is equal to 1 and F2 is equal to 2. So instead of writing two statements, F1 is equal to 1 and F2 is equal to 2, we can combine those two statements into a single statement in Python. That is F1 will be initialized to 1 and here F2 will be initialized to 2. So now our intention is to print the even numbers up to 4 million, that is 40 lakh. Okay, now I want to start with 1. So that's why I have initialized F1 is equal to 1 and F2 is equal to 2. Okay, F1 is less than, while F1 is less than 40 lakh. So that means loop, continue the loop. If F1 percentage 2 is equal to 0. So even numbers means, so remainder is always 0. So that is the criteria we check here. Okay, if the criteria meets, then take total is equal to, we have initialized total is equal to 0, total plus F1. So that means while loop will take one number at a time from 1 to 4 lakh, and each time we are checking here whether the number is an even number or not. Once we find that the number is even, so that is the remainder is 0, then we compute total is equal to total plus F1. Then we subsequently update the values of F1 and F2 to the next iteration. See now initially, so now the F1, say F1 is equal to initially 1 and F2 is equal to 2. Then so now F1 should become F2, then F2 should become plus 2. Why? Because we are interested in only even numbers. So always F2 denotes even numbers like 2, 4, 6, 8. That's why F2 is equal to F1 plus F2. Okay, F1 is equal to, so F1 should also increment by one number, that is F1, F2 is equal to F1 plus F2, that is 1 plus 2, that is 3. So in the next iteration, so therefore F1 becomes 2. So 2 is less than 40 lakh, true. If 2% 2 is equal to 0, yes, the condition is true. Total is equal to total plus f1, that is total is equal to 0 plus 2, that is 2. Then update f1 value, f1 is equal to f2, that is f2 is 3. So f2 is equal to f1 plus f2. So that is 2 plus how much? 2 plus 3, 5. Okay, now in the next iteration, f1 is 3, 3 is less than 4 lakh. Okay, here the condition fails. So then don't calculate and here, but update the f1 and f2 value. Like that, it will keep updating the values until it calculates the all the sum of even numbers up to 40 lakh. So this is one example where we can show that how the conditional statements can be used within the looping construct. See here, while is the looping construct and if is the conditional statement. So we want to repeat the loop. So whenever we want to repeat the loop, so obviously we may have to exit from the loop at some point based upon some condition. So the one such condition is this if condition. So in this if condition, we are just trying to print all the, we are just trying to do the summation of all the even numbers up to 4 lakh. Okay, see here the output is, so units 10, 100, 1000, 10,000, lakh, 10 lakh. Okay, 46 lakh, 13,732. So this is the output. Okay, when you add all the even numbers up to 40 lakhs, the result will become 46 lakh, 13,732. Students, any doubt you have in this? Only new thing that you are observing is here, within a single line, you are initializing more than one variable. Say, for example, f1, f2 is equal to 1, 2. So that is how usually we do in Python. But if you want to go with your our old traditional manner, then you can write in two separate lines, f1 is equal to 1 and f2 is equal to 2. Okay, that is always better. Okay, shall we continue, students? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you can ask the doubts always, no issues. Now we will see how to write functions in Python. Okay, first let us see what is a function. So far we have studied so many programming languages like C, C++, Java, and so on. So, and in every language we have written functions. So in object-oriented programming, we call them as methods. So actually, what is the whole idea of writing these functions? Why we need to write functions? Students? Anyone? Rakesh? Vinny? Why we need to write functions? Hello? Hello, students. Tell me why we need to write functions. Hello? Can you hear me?
To get particular output.
To get particular output. Okay, any other answer?
Reusability.
Yeah, code reusability. Very good. Very good point. Then?
To perform particular tasks.
Yeah, very good. So these are the two major reasons. So each function does one meaningful task. So that is another one thing. And another thing, code reusability. So for example, see, without writing a function also we can do the processing part. So just as part of the main function, we can implement the logic. But what happens when there is a requirement such that you need to compute certain things again and again repetitively? If that is the requirement, then obviously if you call the function, it will execute. That means write once, execute multiple times. So that is the major advantage of writing the functions. So that is that means you are actually reusing the code again and again, but you have implemented only once. Implement once, call multiple times. Okay, and keep in your mind, so the meaning of a function is that it is a set of instructions. A function is a set of instructions, and each function does one meaningful task. Okay, so sometimes we also write functions which will do more than one task, but but it is always difficult to debug the errors when a function does more than one task. So always it is suggested to write one simple function to do one meaningful task. Okay, that you need to always keep in your mind while implementing the functions. Say for example, bubble sort or any sort, sometimes you may have to sort the array, then we have to compute. So if that is the case, what we do, first we implement one separate sort function, then we implement the actual sorting. Okay, so that is all. Okay, so that means, so you write function such that it does only one meaningful task, so that the debugging task becomes easier for us. A function is created with the def keyword. The statements in the block of the function must be indented. Look at the syntax. So every function begins with the keyword def. So def stands for definition, that is function definition. So def, can you see the syntax here? Def, function name, then the argument list, then colon followed by the statements. This indentation indicates what is the body of the function. Now look at in the right side, look at the example. So here there is a function by name print greetings. So we are starting the function definition with the keyword def, name of the function, no arguments. Okay, look at the body of the function. So as the name itself suggests, print greeting. So we are printing hello, how are you today? Okay, that's it. So then look at the syntax of how to call a function. Just like how you call a function in C program or in C program, similarly here also you can call a function. The syntax to call a function in Python is same as the syntax that we have used in C programming. So print greeting, that's it. So giving the semicolon is optional, that is up to you. So even if you give semicolon also it will work. If you do not give semicolon also it will work in Python while calling the function. Students, any doubt in this? Syntax of defining the function and syntax of calling the function. Okay. So now here, look at this, the arrow mark. I am showing cursor. So this is the calling function and this is the called function where the function definition is defined. The def keyword is followed by the function name with round brackets enclosing the arguments and a colon. So don't forget to put the colon here. Okay, just immediately while defining the function, immediately after the brackets, you need to put the colon. That indicates the beginning of the loop. The indented statements form a body of the function. The return keyword is used to specify the list of values. So that means, so we write functions. Sometimes we may want to, like, sometimes we want to return something and sometimes we don't want to return anything. That is up to us. So here also in the, so just like how you are using the return statement in C program, here also you can use the return keyword if you want to return the values. So this is, here is one simple function. So by name here, see here I am calling print greeting, and this is the definition. If that function executes, so this is the output. Hello, how are you today? Students, any doubt in this? Shall I continue? Hello?
Yes, sir.
I saw.
Yes. All parameters in the Python language are passed by reference. See, whenever we say functions, we talk about the arguments, local arguments, okay, like dummy arguments and actual arguments. So what are dummy arguments? Say for example here, name comma sum list is the dummy argument. So what does it mean? Okay, okay, look at here. So can you see the cursor here? Can you see the cursor here? A comma b is equal to hello function of my name comma my list. So what is this my name and my list? These are the arguments that we are passing. Okay, so these my name and my list are called as actual arguments, so which are sending from the main function. But look at here, while defining the functions, so we are receiving the variables as name comma sum list, which are called as dummy arguments. All parameters in the Python language are passed by reference. Say there are two types of passing the values: pass by value or pass by reference. That is call by value or call by reference. In Python, every time we use only the technique called as pass by reference, not pass by value. So therefore, what is the difference between pass by value and pass by reference? Anyone, students?
In pass by value, we will directly send the values to the function. In pass by reference, we will send the address of the
Yeah, just the memory address of the variable will be sent, so that it doesn't matter whether you return the values or not. So even if you do modification in the function definition, that will be directly applied to those changes are directly applicable to the variables itself. Okay, that is pass by reference or call by reference. Okay, so now here, look at here. I have my name is equal to Ben, my list. So my name is equal to Ben. That is a string variable. My list is equal to 1 comma 2. That is a list. We are creating a list. You can assume it as an array list. Then a comma b is equal to hello function name of my name comma my list. So so look at this statement: a comma b is equal to hello function of my name comma my list. That means here hello function is the name of the function. We are making a function call. Then after returning the values, value of my name will be stored in variable a and value of my list will be stored in variable b. That's why here we are using a comma b is equal to hello function. So here, if you look at the definition of the hello function, you can see at the end return 1 comma 2. So that means you are returning 1 comma 2, where 1 will be stored in the variable a, where here 1 will be stored in variable a and 2 will be stored in variable b. Okay, so like that. Okay, like that you need to understand how to deal with parameters and how to pass parameters, then how to store the values in the left side variable. So whenever your the function is returning something, so in the left side there should be some variables to store the values, isn't it? So here, since it is returning multiple values 1 comma 2, so therefore we need two variables, that is a comma b, to store the values. So okay, look at here what it is doing. So function hello function. So here look at the function definition: def hello function of name comma sum list. So what it is doing, print hello name, that is print hello. What is the name value? Ben. What you are sending is my name is equal to Ben, so hello Ben will be printed. Then we have a new line. Then name is equal to Caitlin. Then sum list of 0 is equal to 3. So we have also taken another variable sum list is equal to 3. Then return 1 comma 2. So now, so since we are returning 1 comma 2, 1 will be stored in a and 2 will be stored in b. Now after that we have a print statement: my name. What is my name? Look at there. What is my name? Tell me. My name is Caitlin.
no
Can
sir,
see
Ben.
here. So no, sorry.
Ben.
Yes, my name is Ben. Then after that, you can see my list. What is my list? What is my list?
1 and 2.
Huh?
1, 2.
1 comma 2. But look at here. Here it is my list is received as sum list, and in the zeroth index, we are inserting 3 here. So therefore, in the 0th index we have 3, and in the 1th index we have 2. So that's why Ben of 3 comma 2. Then print a comma b. In the last statement, print a comma b. So where it is storing, so here it is a comma b. So while the function is, when the function returns here 1 comma 2, a is stored in, 1 is stored in a and 2 is stored in b. So hence print a comma b is resulting in 1 comma 2, that is 1 and 2. So that's how we need to understand how the pass by reference will work. See here in the 0th index we have inserted 2. Earlier there was 1. Instead of 1 now we have inserted 2. So that's why when you print my list here it is printing 3 comma 2. So through that, so because it is now it is going to the address of that variable and there it is replacing 1 with 3. Hence it is displaying 3 comma 2. Okay, so that's how pass by reference will work in Python. Any doubt in this, students? So next is function with return value. So here also it has returned something. Now, okay, we'll see this example. See here we have a program, say even Fibonacci numbers. The Python, okay, look at the, okay, even fib, okay, look at the function definition. You have even fib, total is equal to 0, f1 is equal to 1, f2 is equal to 2, while f1 is less than 40 lakh if f1 percentage 2 is equal to 0, total is equal to total plus f1. So that means, so whenever there is an even value, we are adding it. Okay, whenever the f1 value is even, we are adding it, and subsequently we are updating the values of f1 and f2. Okay, so because it's a Fibonacci program, so f1 is equal to f2 and f2 is equal to f1 plus f2. Because see here the intention of this function is, say you start with the value 1, go up to 40 lakh, just you consider only the Fibonacci series values like 0, 1, 3, 5 and so on. So you consider only Fibonacci values. Among those Fibonacci values, just you do the summation of all the even values. So what are the even values? Even values are those whose remainder is 0. When you divide it by 2, its remainder is 0. Okay, if you apply percentage modulo, that is division modulo, its remainder is 0. For example, so we start with f1 is equal to 1. So 1 is less than 40 lakh, true. If 1 percentage 2 is equal to 0, so the remainder is not 0. So that means don't calculate total, because if condition is becoming false, then just come to f1. Okay, initialize f1 is equal to f2. That means f1 becomes 2 and f2 is equal to f1 plus f2. So that is f2 is equal to 1 plus 2, that is 3. Okay, now come back to the while loop. Now what is f1 value? 2. 2 is less than 40 lakh. Yes. Okay, come to the if condition. If 2 division modulo 2 is equal to 0, yes, remainder is equal to 0. So therefore compute total is equal to total plus f1. So what is the initial value of total? That is 0. Total is equal to 0 plus f1, that is 2. Okay, 0 plus 2 is 2. Then update f1 is equal to f2. Okay, f1 is equal to f2. So that is 2. Then f2 is equal to, so what is f1 value? F1 is equal to f2. F2 value is 3. So f1 is equal to 3 and f2 is equal to f1 plus f2, that is 2 plus 3, that is 5. So now f2 has become 5. So like that you keep on adding until you reach 40 lakh. Okay, students, here and another important thing you need to understand. So look at this statement. The Python interpreter will set some special environment variable when it starts executing. So when the Python interpreter starts executing, it will set one special environment variable that is called as and double underscore name underscore variable. So look at here, if the Python interpreter is running the module that is a source file as the main program, it sets the special variable double underscore name double underscore variable to have a value double underscore main double underscore. This allows for flexibility in writing your programs. So that means it will assign. See, it will create an. See, if you say you have written a function, so and that function is part of the main program, then it will create a special variable. The Python interpreter will create a special variable by name. This is double underscore. Look at the cursor. Double underscore name double underscore and a variable name. So that will be initialized to double underscore. You can see here main and double underscore. Okay, then it will call the function. Okay, say for example in interviews they may ask you the question. So when the Python interpreter is executing your program, so what is the variable, what is the environment variable that it creates? So the name of that environment variable is double underscore name double underscore, and what value it contains, it contains the value of the main functions, that is double underscore main double underscore. So later on, so when we after a few class you will get more clarity about so why we use that environment variable, actually what is its purpose, why it is so significant for us. So that we will see in the coming classes. Okay, students, anything you want to ask students? Hello? Hello, anything you want to ask students?
No, sir.
Okay. So now I'll send you the quiz questions. Okay. So you can answer. Yesterday I didn't conduct. So before that I want to take the attendance. Just a minute. Now I'll call your USNs. You just answer for your USN number. First I'll call with the 1BY series. Okay. USN 1. Students, you have to unmute your speakers. Answer for the attendance. First I am starting with 1BY series. USN 1.
Present, sir.
2.
Present, sir.
3.
Present, sir.
4.
Yes, sir.
5.
Present, sir.
6.
Yes, sir.
7.
Present, sir.
8.
Yes, sir.
9.
Present, sir.
10.
Present, sir.
11.
Present, sir.
12.
Present, sir.
So is that repetition? Who is 12?
Chaitra.
Okay. 13.
Present, sir.
14.
Present, sir.
15. 15 is not there. 16.
Present, sir.
17.
Present, sir.
18.
Present, sir.
19.
Present, sir.
20.
Present, sir.
21.
Present, sir.
22.
Present, sir.
23.
Present, sir.
24. 24. 25.
Yes, sir.
26. 26. 27.
Yes, sir.
28.
Sir.
29. 29. 29 absent. 30.
Present, sir.
Okay, now TD series. USN 1. 1 TD series. 1 is there. 1 is there.
Yes, sir. She's
Two.
saying.
2,
Present, sir.
3,
Present, sir.
4,
Present, sir.
5,
Present, sir.
6,
Present, sir.
7,
Present, sir.
8,
Yes, sir.
9,
Present, sir.
10, 10. Hello?
Sir, present, sir, present.
11, 11, 12,
Present, sir.
13,
Present, sir.
14,
Yes, sir.
15, 16,
Present, sir.
17,
Yes, sir.
18, 18,
Present, sir.
19,
Present, sir.
20,
Present, sir.
Present, sir.
21, 18 and 19, I
Yes, sir.
think repeated twice. 18, who is 18?
Sir, Spooty, sir.
19,
Sir, Srinidhi.
Srinidhi, absent.
Sir, present.
Present, okay. Okay, 20,
Present, sir.
21,
Present, sir.
22,
Present, sir.
23.
Sir,
20
Bhavana is not there, sir.
Huh? She is not
Bhavana
there.
is not there.
Okay. So up to 23, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 24 is there? 1TD 24 is there? 19 MC 24 is there?
No, sir.
Okay, fine. Okay, because see what happens, attendance is one very complex thing. See, attendance is one complex thing. So actually we can, what happens if we install Google Attendance? There is a plugin Google Attendance. So every time we need to keep scrolling the student users, so it will keep capturing the recent one. So say for example, initially there are 50 students, after some time because of some technical glitch, so when some 2-3 are disconnected. So then if I scroll at the end of the class, so let us assume 40, there are 48 students. So that will be, it will show only 48 and that will be a drawback for remaining 2 students. So then I felt it is always better to call the numbers at the end of the session. So even if they are out for some reason, others can tell us. Huh? So that there will be no confusion. Okay, students, I'll send you the quiz questions now within another 10 minutes. Thank you.